Welcome to the Nerdlore podcast, where we talk stories, theories, and lore. I'm one of your three hosts, Shiny Shoes.
And I'm Crash Darling.
And I'm Scandal.
And today we're going to be going through the lore of Diablo. Scandal's going to take us through there, so go ahead and take it away.
All right. So I do want to preface this entire stream on saying that I'm not going to go through the lore of beginning to end of Diablo. Nobody has that kind of time. If you do want to check out somebody who has delved deep into the lore of Diablo, I would go check out Riker. He's got a really good series. It's a 12-part series. Starts all the way from a new to when he. Anyway, I'm not going to get on all that. So he does a really good job. So if you want to get before Diablo 1 or after Diablo 3, that's who you should definitely go check out. So anyway, so what I'm going to do is just go over the lore that is in the actual games. We may end up going back to some before just to kind of explain a few things. If you see me look over here, it's because I'm looking at my co-hosts that are over here on this screen. If you see me looking straight forward, it's because this is where my notes are. So follow my eyes. All right, so Diablo 1. So I started playing Diablo 96, 94, 95, 96, somewhere in there. I don't remember what year it was, but it came out on the PS1, and this is where I played it. I played it with my buddy Corey, and I was immediately hooked on it. It starts out, there is an eternal war between angels and demons. So you have just this war that continually goes on in this place called Pandemonium. What's really weird is angels and demons don't die, so whenever they get slain on the battlefield, they just end up respawning, kind of like a first-person shooter. So Diablo 1 takes place a little bit after this, well, I guess a long time after this battle has started. Demons are flooding this town called Tristram, which is in Sanctuary. Uh, Diablo is imprisoned in this soul stone that's buried deep beneath Tristram. Um, but after centuries and centuries of being trapped inside of the soul stone, it starts to weaken. So he's able to put out some feelers into the human world, which is in Sanctuary. And he ends up turning this archbishop named Lazarus into his like puppet to do whatever he needed him to do. So Diablo can't leave it, so he uses Lazarus. He convinces him to come and shatter this soul stone to release him from it. Diablo then decides he wants to take over the big kingdom. So the leader of this one was King Leoric. So he tries to take over his mind, but Diablo is too weak from being stuck in this soul stone for so long. So he has to abandon that idea. But when he does that, Leoric's mind is numb and his soul is corrupted. So he ends up going crazy, and that matters later on. But so he wasn't able to do it, but Leoric was never the same. So since he couldn't get Leoric, he had Lazarus go and kidnap Leoric's son, Prince Albrecht, so that he can use his son to gain strength. So he can suck the strength out of his son. After the possession is done, he's still far from full strength, so he just summons demons to take over this labyrinth. It's like just a maze underneath Tristram. So Leoric is so crazy, he's not making sense, and so his lieutenants end up killing him. They end up running their sword through him because he's just insane. And he was doing no good to anybody, and he was just suffering. So his lieutenants, the kindness of their own hearts, not because of greed, not because they wanted the throne, but because they just wanted to put this guy out of his misery, ran him through with a sword. So Diablo now is gaining enough strength to release Baal, who is the Lord of Destruction, and Mephisto, who is the Lord of Hatred, onto Sanctuary. And that's where this game takes place. This is where this game starts. You have the Nephilim, which is you are the offspring of an angel and a demon. I don't want to get too far into it, but basically when the angels and the demon mated, they had this offspring that were Nephilim, but they realized that the Nephilim were stronger than they were, so the two parts combined made the Nephilim stronger than one part separate. I don't know if that makes sense. So because of that, a lot of stuff happened in Norris, who was the angel that slept with Lilith, that bred the Nephilim. He goes off to his own thing. Lilith comes and slays half of everything. So then they send her off to the void. Anyway, so when Anaris comes back and sends her to the void, he weakens the Nephilim over time. So over time, the Nephilim will stop having all their power till they're mortal and humans again. But right now, you are this Nephilim. And in this first Diablo game, there are 16 levels of this dungeon, of this Diablo dungeon. Like I said, the three main characters are Mephisto, who is the Lord of Hatred, who is actually Lilith's father. So his minions, when you go and fight him, are the undead, the animals, and like unshapely creatures with like twisted limbs. And when I say he has undead aren't really demons. They're not like controlled by demons. Well, they're controlled by demons, but they're not part of the demon army. They just use them as like cannon fodder. So they're able to possess them and send them out. Baal, the Lord of Destruction. His minions are the Fallen Ones, the Goatmen, which when we get to Diablo 3 and you learn about witch doctors, Goatmen actually came from them, and Poison Spitters. And then you have Diablo, the Lord of Terror. All of his stuff is fear-based. He attacks with the shadows, and their minions are like the hidden and scavengers. So there's not. So the cool thing about Diablo 1 was because it was like a first gen, like dungeon crawler, like the way it was built. You had three classes. You had the warrior, you had the rogue, and you had the wizard. But what was great about Diablo was you weren't stuck with whatever skills or whatever were part of your class. So yes, a warrior's main stats were strength and constitution, like their health per rank. But you could, if you wanted to, learn all of the spells that the wizard has. Same way that the wizard could learn everything the barbarian wanted. You could have like a battle mage. But there was the wizards was intellect and mana. And then the rogue was kind of in between. So if you wanted to play that hybrid, that's usually what you played because you'd still get a good mana pool with some intellect, but you also still had the strength and some health per level. So that was kind of what you played if you wanted to mix. So that was great about that game because you weren't set to like one thing. You could change that game entirely by whatever you decided you wanted to play. That pretty much goes through Diablo 1. I don't want to like go too far into it and kind of spoil anything. You can actually get this game for free online right now. There's online sites that you can play Diablo 1 if you want to. Understand it was a PS1 game, so the graphics are are not great, but it is like the lore behind it. If you open up every book and you listen to the storyline and like the lore in just this one game was amazing. So do we have any questions about the first Diablo game?
Mine would be about Pandemonium. So is that like a purgatory, or is it just basically an eternal battleground?
So it's not purgatory. In fact, it's like another plane. Like it's not a bad place. It's not like a separation from God or anything like that. Like the biblical purgatory was. You actually get to if you play Diablo 3, you actually get to go into Pandemonium in Act 5. For the expansion of Reaper of Souls, so you kind of get a feel of it. Basically, it's just this like black and blue place that has portals that you jump through to get to the next like area because it's not really like on flat land. It's kind of out in space or whatever. But it does have like a palace in the center of it, and that's where the World Stone is. The World Stone is actually, God, I didn't want to do this, but in the very beginning you had Anu, right?
Yeah.
So Anu was like this just creature. He was just there. Nothing else was there. He decided he wanted to strip himself of his evil, which brought this dragon. I can't remember his name. It's some crazy name. But this dragon had seven heads. When this dragon and Anu killed each other, the seven heads of the dragon became the seven lords of hell, and Anu's eye is the world stone, so that's why it's so powerful, and his spine is actually what creates angels in heaven. So like it's I'm telling you, man, the lore is deep and so great, but I can't touch on it because we'll do this forever.
Yeah.
So no, Pandemonium, they want the world stone because the world stone holds a lot of this power, obviously, because it's Anu's eye.
Okay.
So that's what's in the palace.
All right, mine as How much is this based in like real mythology? Because I recognize the name Baal and Mephisto.
Hmm.
Is it
So yeah, I don't know because I wasn't the creator and I don't really know how much they took from it. Um, and to be honest, I don't really know how much Baal is talked about, like in the Bible or whatever, and I haven't gone into the. I think it comes from a Catholic or Latin, um, but I mean the names are similar. I think they used it more for notoriety. Like people know this name, they know if they they don't know like the name Asmodan or whatever. But Bale and even Bale was used in that movie with Anthony Hopkins when he was the priest that got possessed. Um,
Okay,
I don't remember. I
I
can't remember.
don't.
Anyway, so at the end of that one, I'm going to spoil that movie for you. He says, "Tell me your name," and finally he tells him his name's Bale. So Bale and
Oh
Mephisto
yeah.
and Diablo, I think those are like just popular names as far as demon lore is concerned. Most people knew those names, so I think that's why they used them.
I
okay?
think I think it's funny. We've probably all seen that movie with Anthony Hopkins, but none of us can remember the name because I know I've seen that movie. I just don't
It's like
remember the name.
it's not the Cure, but it's something like that. It's like
Yeah.
it's something simple like that. But yeah, anyway. So, we have any other questions about that? No, Sean, you good?
No,
Okay.
no.
All right.
All right. So, we'll go to the expansion that happened after Diablo 1, but you do have to understand that this was not done by Blizzard. So this first expansion, Diablo Hellfire, was an expansion, but it was done by I think it was either Sienna or Sierra Entertainment. I can't remember which one it was. Um, so while this was here as an expansion to Diablo, it was named Diablo Hellfire. Um, all of the games after it don't associate with it at all because it wasn't a Blizzard. Um, it wasn't made by Blizzard. So just putting that out there. So in Hellfire, you have the sorcerer, and so the sorcerers, um, after I'm trying not to go really deep into some lore here, but after after the Sin Wars that happen, um, religion is kind of banned from Sanctuary. Right, demons and angels are not really allowed to interfere with Sanctuary anymore, so they don't do um, religion anymore. They allow mages to start taking over, and this is like when the mage era starts, and it takes this when a lot of the Chaldeum and all these bigger mage areas come out whenever this happens. So anyway, there's this sorcerer, and while he's performing a ritual, he releases this demon, Not Cruel, on Tristram. But before Not Cruel can escape, the sorcerer is able to close the doors. Why are you laughing at me, Sean?
It's your boy Nakul.
It's your boy, Not Cruel.
Kurella Nakul.
So, so it's our job to then go into the lair, Nakrul's lair, and vanquish it. But what was great about this expansion was it was the first expansion that added new classes, obviously, because it's the first expansion ever. But it brought the monk class, brought new dungeons, new quests, new items, oils that enhanced items, rune traps, new spells, new affixes for gear. So gear changed, and you were able to get new gear, new shrines. I mean, new mini boss. It was like a whole like new game that was just kind of built on this first one. Another cool thing about it was you could they sent out and gave you information on how you could mod the command.txt file, and you could actually bring in the bard and the barbarian. Um, they had a whole nother class of skills and stuff like that that you could play. It was like a test. They were testing.
New
They
classes.
allowed players to test these new classes. The bard didn't really last, but the barbarian is actually what comes out in Diablo 2, and from then on, the warrior kind of goes away, and the barbarian is what takes over. You also get two quests. Even though you could play the bard and the barbarian, they looked like the rogue and the warrior from Diablo 1 because they didn't have new skins or anything like that. It was just for you to test out new abilities and stuff like that. So since the beginning, there's always been this rumor, and it never held any ground, but it was a rumor that if you tapped this shrine a certain amount of times, it would give you entry to this cow level. Okay, and in this cow level, you would fight these cows and get epic gear and epic loot or whatever. Um, that never really existed. But
Uh,
in this expansion, they decided to allow you to do the cow quest, which is you had to go retrieve Lester, who gives you this quest, he has a suit and he turns into a cow. And then there's a Theo quest for an amulet, but if you didn't do that amulet, you could still, or if you didn't do that quest, you could still get the amulet. You just didn't know the lore behind it because you didn't do the quest. So what's great about Diablo Hellfire was like it was the archetype. It was like the first modded video game, like openly modded video game that you could play. So that was kind of like an interesting point about Hellfire. So not really much to say about that other than all the new cool stuff you could play, and the new like gear modifications and stuff like that. So any questions about Hellfire?
I don't have any questions, but I know that even as someone who isn't like a big Diablo faithful, like I'm not exactly like head over heels for it, I know about the cow quest. Like the cow level. Like
the cow level, yeah.
I've seen memes and videos of the cow level, so
yeah.
I'm sorry, is this a boomer thing? I'm too young to understand.
Wow. Get out. It is funny because I think the first Diablo game was out before they're trash.
Probably.
It's okay, man. Some of us were born before 2000. Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna move on because I don't want to bore everybody here. As long as everybody's good, no questions for Hellfire.
The only
So
one
here-
I had was you mentioned something called the Sin Wars.
Yeah.
And I just wrote, I'm just guessing that this was like a religion-based war.
Yeah,
Or was
so Sanctuary, like I said, was like this safe haven for humans, and demons and angels weren't supposed to mess with it. So they didn't, but they did. And the way they did it was that, and I can't. There are 3 whole books on the Sin Wars alone, so I can't, and I'm not going to delve all the way into this. But basically, what it was Diablo, Mephisto, and Baal all started this church called the Triune, which is kind of funny, because there's 3 of them, so it's called the Triune. And then what was his name? I can't remember his name now, and I'm going to mess it up. One of the angels, like it started with an I. It was the one that slept with Lilith. He and 2 other angels started the Cathedral of Light. And at first they were nothing. They were just churches spreading their propaganda. Their faith. And sorry, didn't mean to use that word. Anyway, it got to where they're God, dude, like, so Lilith is out in the void. She comes back. She gets this guy, whose whole family, besides he and his brother, had died to a plague. Gets him to go look at this dead body. It happens to be a messenger of the Triune. Then they go down the other place. They find a messenger of the Cathedral of Light. It has this guy's dagger buried inside of him. So of course he goes to jail. When he's in jail, he thinks really hard about wanting to get out. All of a sudden the door opens up. So he doesn't escape, though. He uses that time to kind of mess with it a little bit, and then he gets tried, and they decide they're going to hang him. But then he's like, no, and then he's able to use his magic again, and then they go off, and he kind of starts his own religion as well. That's humans that have magic, because whenever the humans are with them, they get this magic, right? Turns out the lady that showed him these bodies was actually Lilith from the Void. She kind of makes fun of him, tells him that it was all of her power. He never had any power, and she kind of walks away, so he loses all of his power. He ends up getting to the World Stone, gets power, and then that's when all this Sin Wars happened, like this big ass fight happened. Like I said, dude, there's so much lore. I'm trying to give you as quick as possible to answer your question.
Everybody, Sin Wars episode incoming soon. No, you're good.
I wish I could. I really wish I could, but I wouldn't do it justice. There's too much. Anaris, that's the angel's name. I couldn't do it justice. There's so much. There's so much I would leave out with names and stuff. I just can't. Like I said, if you want more, there's a series out there on YouTube you can get for free. So, and he's not done. So, anyway, we good with that one?
Yeah.
Got any more open-ended questions about lore you want to know? There's
How hot is Lilith again?
well, she is the lord of the succubi, so yes.
So, like,
but she has horns, so if you can get past, this.
No, that's
then,
the bonus.
Right.
That's
well,
the
everybody looks good in the dark. So anyway, Diablo 2, shall we? Should we go there? Okay. So Diablo 2 was released in 2000. A year later, by 2001, it was one of the most popular online games ever. It was just it was that was helped out a lot by BattleNet. Being able to play with your friends and stuff like that was really fun. So Diablo 2 starts where Diablo 1 left off, and it completely ignores the sorcerer and not cruel and all that stuff. So I didn't want to ruin this, but I kind of have to in order to give you a basis on this one. I didn't really want to do spoilers, but I kind of have to. Am I okay to do spoilers here?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to preface it big time spoiler as far as how Diablo 1 ends. After you trap Diablo in the Soul Stone, you take the shard and you shove it through your head because you're trying to be powerful enough to hold Diablo in your body. The only problem with that is Diablo is really strong, so he corrupts you and you become the Dark Wanderer in Diablo 2. Marius is the narrator. I think I'm saying his name right. I could be butchering it, but whatever. He watches the Dark Wanderer unleash demons on this tavern. He's the only survivor, and some believe that that's because they needed somebody to tell the story. If everything went the way they wanted it to go, they wanted somebody to tell the story of how demons or how Diablo was able to take over. So you're this new hero and following the Dark Wanderer and trying to put an end to the Demon Lord. You do end up catching up to him outside of the city called Curast, but you can't defeat him because you're not strong enough. So we talked about the 7 Lords of Hell that came from the dragon. We know 3 of them right now. We know Diablo, Baal, and Mephisto, but there are 4 others. Andariel is the Maiden of Anguish, and she uses poison damage. Andariel is the like I said, she's the Maiden of Anguish. So everything that so there are 7 layers of hell, and she runs over this anguish level of hell, and it's all mental anguish. So it's all like guilt and self-doubt and everything Crash Starling deals with on a daily basis.
You just saw me immediately look down and be like, this bitch needs to get the fuck out of my life immediately. I'm putting an eviction notice on you, Andriel.
What's really cool about this is Duriel is actually her twin. They look nothing alike. He is the Lord of Maggots. He's the Lord of Pain, and he uses fast, strong attacks and freezes. So he is like just this. His lair is just full of pain and suffering, but like physical pain. But Andariel's mental anguish is so bad that a lot of people a lot of demons or whatever that are in there are willing to offer themselves to Duriel to start taking the physical pain because the mental pain is too much. So,
Big mood.
yeah. So you end up, yeah. So you end up fighting her and her twin in Diablo 2. You fight Mephisto again because he's released again. Again, he's the Lord of Hatred. He uses lightning. His minions, good God, dude! Like his minions alone before you fight him, his minions will make you want to throw your controller. I think I went through 3 while playing this. 3 mice while playing this. God, there's a guy in here. I know I put it in my notes and you guys saw it. Maffer Dragonhand. Good God. If I never fight that guy again, it'll be too soon. And then you end up fighting Diablo again. He uses fire. So that's kind of Diablo 2, kind of the story of why you're there. Any questions about that one?
Is Diablo easier to beat than...
Absolutely, hands down.
Yeah.
So Diablo moves slower. So like Diablo's attacks are really strong, but he moves slower, so you can get around him and dodge his main thing is like this fire breath that comes out, but you can easily go around him and not get hit by it. Mephisto can just go himself.
Hey.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I forgot we're gonna need to mute that one. Just put a beep and there on that one. Sorry. So brings back bad memories.
No, that's good. I don't have any questions on D2.
Okay. All right, so enter Diablo 2 Lord of Destruction. Now this game sucked many, many hours out of many, many people's lives. I remember So again, I think this game came out in 2002 or 2003, and even through 2010, we were all still doing hell or bail runs on hell. So like it never like it was such a great game. Such a great game. Okay, so let's get into a little bit of things that happen here. So you defeat Mephisto and Diablo, obviously, in Diablo 2, and you destroy their soul stones. Marius is tricked into giving the last soul stone to Tyrael, who is the angel of justice, but it was actually Baal in disguise, not actually Tyrael. So you give Baal the last soul stone. Obviously, Baal kills Marius. So in this one, so in order for you to understand this, the World Stone was brought to Sanctuary and hidden away for a long time, and that's why angels and demons couldn't get to it. They had no idea it existed, and it was taken by Anarius and Lilith before they created humans. So in Pandemonium, God, I'm gonna do this again. Anarius hated this. He thought it was pointless to fight this endless war, right? Because it's an endless war. So he's upset. He gets captured by a bunch of demons, and while he's being tortured the whole time, he's like, "This is stupid. Why are we fighting this war? It's never going to end. We never win. We just respawn." Well, those demons who captured him, their boss was Lilith, and Lilith hated her dad, Mephisto, so much that she also wanted to. I mean, could you imagine having the Lord of Hatred as your father? I mean, look, I'm a redheaded stepchild, and I
Yeah.
couldn't imagine having of hatred as my father.
My dad, evidently, obviously.
Yeah. So she hated him. So they kind of worked together. They went to Pandemonium, got to the fortress, stole the World Stone, left a fake so that nobody knew, and then snuck it away to this place called Sanctuary. That's where they had sex and had Nephilim, and that's where the Sin Wars happened. That's why the demons and angels couldn't get there because they didn't know it existed. But whenever the sorcerers started summoning demons, that's when the demons started knowing that place existed. So anyway, I say that because Bale is now going to the base of this mountain, and I'm losing what I thought I put this in the notes and I didn't, and I hate it that I did not put it in here. It's the Barbarian Lands, but I can't remember the mount name. You end up playing in it in Diablo 3 as well. Sacheron, something like that. That's one of the towns. Anyway, so there's this mountain that Bale has to go up to get the World Stone. That's where they've hidden it. Was on top of this. The barbarians were there to stop anybody from getting the World Stone. So Bale is invading the northern barbarian lands, trying to get the World Stone. He wants to use it to end the eternal conflict between angels and demons because he wants to rule forever.
Mount,
What's that? I'm sorry.
Mount Arret.
Yeah, they're
okay.
Ariat.
Okay.
I think is what it is. Yeah. So thank you. So Diablo 2, so that's kind of like the basis of the game. But Diablo 2 introduced so many things. Like you got a fifth act, which was no different than any other expansion. But you got ethereal items, which were stronger, but they were time sensitive. So like they would crumble after a certain time. They were also invisible to the human eye. So like when you equipped it, you didn't know. I mean, you equipped it, but you couldn't see it. But they were hella strong. You got rune enhancements, jewels, charms. This also brought in 2 new classes, the assassin and the druid. Hands down, druid was always my favorite. We'll get into that in a little bit. You got a bigger stash because it sucked. You had no room to save things, so like you couldn't like save things if you wanted to. So anyway, they made a bigger stash this one. The mercs that you can purchase for hire can now leave the town. They could never leave town before. I don't know why they were even there, but now they can leave the town. New class items, elite items, new set items. The resolution upgrade was nice. It wasn't in, I think it was like 620 before. Now you could have it better. Or no, it was 900, 600 is what it moved to. So it was worse than that before. Anyway, talk a little bit about the assassins and druids. The assassins, so after the mage war happens, the mage clan wars, there's one mage group that's like the best. They hire, it's really funny, they're in charge of these assassins to kill any mages because the humans were done with mages after what had happened between this huge. I mean, they destroyed everything in this mage war. So they went from religion to sorcery. Now sorcery's done. They're gonna go back to religion. Anyway, so
That's how it happens in real life as well. It's okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
I
Yeah.
understand it. Yeah.
The whole
So we go
generation
from religion
is like,
to
maybe
science.
we should do religion.
to religion again. Yeah. So anyway, so these assassins that you play in this game are actually part of this mage group that's killing mages that ever pop up. So it's basically securing that they're the only mage group. Anyway, there are 3 trees you get to do with assassins. You can do the shadow. It's got a lot of passive skills and buffs that you can do. I didn't play the assassin very much, so I don't want to say a lot because I don't know a lot about it. The trap tree, obviously, you had better traps that you could use, and then martial arts, you could charge up skills, and you had finishing moves. So it was like Mortal Kombat. You'd yell "finish him" before you did anything. I saw you were until I finished that one. I saw what you were a little lost there. Then the druid, like I said, hands down my favorite. You could do elemental. I wasn't a fan. I used elemental to level up because it was strong. You could do summoning, which was like a beast master, or you could shapeshift, which I think is pretty self-explanatory. I always played the summoning because like your Raven could scratch out the eyes of your enemy and blind them, but they couldn't be targeted, so it would never die. So you would have that, and I'd have wolves, and I'd have a bear. So I would bear tank Bale, and then whenever I'd start getting low, I would teleport to town, repair and heal, and then get back in before my bear tank was dead, and start fighting again. That's how I beat Bale runs all the time. Anyway, that's pretty
Seems
much the
totally
end of.
balanced. And
Mhm. One of the greatest things about Diablo 2 was PvP. Uh, it's never been the same since they tried to implement it in Diablo 3, but everybody just gets one shot. It's not. In Diablo 2. It was great. You'd go outside and just duel people all day, and that was so great. But they didn't. They couldn't do it in 3 or Reaper of Souls. So anyway, that was another great thing about Diablo 2. So,
Awesome.
any questions about Lord of Destruction?
Not
And
now,
so
but
if you
again,
don't-
maybe
yeah.
one day we'll talk about the Mage Wars as well. But not now. I don't want to get you into it.
no, please don't. Please don't. Because there's a lot of towns and 3 different sects of mages, and I don't know their names off the top of my head. And like I said, I could not do this justice right now. I'd have to prep.
It's okay. It's okay.
All right.
Wait,
so,
I do have one question.
Okay, what's up?
So tell me about the Mage Wars.
Shut up.
Classic.
Okay. So we're gonna move on to Diablo 3.
Mhm.
Okay. So Diablo 3 came out in 2012. This game is amazing. It was the first Diablo game that allowed you to interact with terrain. So, like, while you're in these dungeons, you can hit the walls, and sometimes things will crumble and hit enemies. You could break stuff. Yeah, I mean, um, it was great when it first came out, man. And you waited forever. It's just like we're waiting on Diablo 4 right now. The first video came out in like 2010, I think, and everybody was super hyped because you got to see the barbarian and you got to see him breaking things on the wall and stuff like that. But it took 2 years after that first video, 3 to come out. Long, excruciating years. This one is a little more fresh in my mind, so I can probably answer a lot more questions. We'll probably spend a little more time on this because it's so fresh, and there's the other ones we're talking 9 years ago, more than that, 20 years ago. Man, I'm old. Okay, so New Tristram is the city now. Tristram is done, and now there's a New Tristram. There's a Cathedral of Light, which was brought to you by the Angels religion. Anyway, so you have New Tristram. That basically Deckard Cain is part of this group. He's like one of the last people of this group who just became. They used to be sorcerers, but they ended up just. They were the sorcerers that hunted Diablo and stuff to trap them in the soul stones to begin with before the first Diablo started. Anyway, instead of being sorcerers and battle mages anymore, then they became just kind of like historians because there wasn't anything to really fight anymore. So he was the last one. He's got this big book, the Book of Cain, obviously. Not Cain like Cain and Abel. This is a good Cain.
Yeah.
So in this one, the verse cinematic, you see him in the Cathedral of Light, and all of a sudden this falling star, comes through and blasts into the cathedral and goes through a bunch of the labyrinths that are below New Tristram because it's on top of Tristram, which also had labyrinths underneath it. Um, so when you get to New Tristram in the beginning, you find Leah, who is Deckard Cain's niece. She wants you to help find Deckard Cain. You go and find Deckard Cain. In Act 1, you end up fighting Leoric. Remember Leoric from Diablo 1? King Leoric. He is a skeleton now. He's a king now. And he was risen. He rose from the dead because of the power of whatever this is that fell from the sky. So you end up fighting him. Once you're done with that, you're able to come down and you find your mercenary partner that you take with you. Eventually, you get to where the falling star is, right? Turns out it is a man that has fallen from the sky. So, in order to get his memory back, he needs his sword. Well, it's broken into 3 pieces, obviously, right? So now we got to go get 3 pieces of this sword so that we can put it together. As we retrieve them, though, Magda shows up, and she is a powerful sorceress. Working for Belial, who is the 6th Lord of Hell. He is the Lord of Lies. And so she ends up getting all 3 after you find them. And she's torturing Cain because she wants Cain to put it back together because he knows how to. Leah doesn't like it. She explodes with this power, and Magda disappears for a little bit. Cain, spoiler alert, Cain ends up dying. So now it's just Leah. Leah thought that all of the stuff that were in Cain's stories were stories. Everything that was in that book were just stories. None of it was true. She's starting to realize that it actually was true as all this stuff is happening to her town. Sorry, I know that's a lot to start out with. Anyway, so you end up getting the 3 pieces. They put the sword together. They give it to this man. He turns out to be Tyrael.
Of course.
Yeah. So Tyrael is the Archangel of Justice. As you go further into the game, you find out that the angels actually took a vote on whether or not to kill all humans and get rid of Sanctuary because they realized how powerful they could be during the Sin Wars whenever they got touched with the World Stone and they got all that Nephilim power. So, yeah, so Tyrael didn't like it and didn't want to do it, and so he ends up ripping his wings off and falling from heaven. And that's the falling star that happens through the cathedral. So he sacrificed himself. Like I said, I went into that without even looking at my notes. So because you are pissed off that Cain died because he was your best friend in the first 10 minutes of the game, you swear you're going to go kill Magda because she's the one who killed him. So you go to this town called Chaldeum, which has an emperor who is a child. Anyway, everything is blocked off. You can't get to the emperor to talk to him. You go through the sewers. You finally end up getting to Magda. You kill her, and then you get to the emperor, and you find out it's actually Belial. So you fight Belial, which is a pretty fun fight. If you've never done it before, it may or may not make you want to punch babies, but it's a good fight. Yeah. So you end up taking care of. You good there?
Yeah, I was just sitting like, what could make me punch a baby?
So yeah. So you end up fighting and killing Belial, and you trap him in this stone. Once you kill, I'm sorry, before you kill Belial, I apologize. Yeah, I should have been looking at my notes. When you kill Magda, you find Adria, who's actually Leah's mother. She's a powerful sorceress. She's been gone for so long because she's trying to keep Leah safe because she's so powerful, I guess. She needs to get the Black Soul Stone so she can finish trapping Lords of Hell. So that when you kill Belial, you trap him in this Black Soul Stone. So it's a different Soul Stone than all of the others. But in order to get the Black Soul Stone, you have to resurrect Zoltan Kuhl, who was one of the people who became a historian after trapping. He was one of the 7 that trapped the Lords of Hell, or the 3 prime evils: Mephisto, Baal, and Diablo. So anyway, you have to do that. The problem is you have to go through all this stuff to get all of his body parts because they tore him apart because he kind of was psychotic as he was getting closer to the end. So you get all of his body parts, you resurrect him. He turns out he wants the Black Soul Stone, so you have to fight and kill him again. So you get the Black Soul Stone, right? Again, spoilers are happening here. I'm sorry. Should have known already. So you kill Belial, you trap him in the Soul Stone. And then in a cinematic, you see Leah going through the book and she's like writing, but she doesn't understand what she's writing. She's just trying to make sense out of everything that's in this massive book of history. And as she does it, she kind of passes out and she gets this vision from Asmodan, who is a lesser evil, but one of the 7 Lords of Hell. So he is like the best militant Lord of Hell. So he's sieging. Oh God, where am I at here? He's sieging a fortress in Act 3.
Like
And
Snowy.
I can't remember the name of the God. Bastion's Keep. Bastion's Keep.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Ah.
so anyway, you go through Bastion's Keep. You stop all of his army. You end up actually killing him and trapping him in a soul stone. When you do, you go back to Bastion's Keep, and Adria is a bad person. She is actually a servant of Diablo and had sex with somebody possessed by Diablo and gave birth to Leah, which is where Leah's power came from when she got really pissed off. Yeah. So Leah is actually the daughter of Diablo.
What a crazy Thanksgiving that would be.
So anyway, Adria takes the Black Soul Stone and releases Diablo. Diablo goes into the high heavens. You remember how we talked about a new spine being what creates angels.
Mm-hmm.
So angels are this perfect thing of light and sound, and when they're in perfect harmony, a new angel is able to be born, but they're born of this spine. So sorry. As Diablo gets up there, he's messing with the spine of Anu, and it just makes all of the angels collapse. They can't do anything because they're not in tune anymore. So he's tearing apart the high heavens. So you get to go up there. You actually get to interact with the 5 archangels, and you save them. You fight some cool demons. You get some cool lore based on like all of these lesser demons that aren't part of the 7 Lords of Hell. Yeah. So you release the Archangel of the Tribune. You fight Diablo, Prophet. Game's over. Right? You trap him in the Black Soul Stone. It's done. Questions about that before we get into the expansion Reaper of Souls?
Why didn't he just do that in the first place?
Do what?
Why he grabs a new spine? Why didn't he do that in the first place?
Well, he has to get there.
But it seemed that's what I mean. Is like you jumped straight to it. He was like, yeah, he just went to heaven and grabbed the spine, and then
because at that point, when Adria released him, he was strong enough to do that. In the first ones, remember, he was super weak and couldn't do anything on his own. Now he's stronger by the time Diablo 3 comes around.
Okay.
Yeah, now he's a beefy boy. Now imagine Cho'Gath after he's eaten, quite a big. He's big. He's huge.
Yeah, he's very angry.
He actually kind of resembles a little bit Cho'Gath in the
It's just
Any questions from you, Shiny?
Nope. I'm with you on this one. I've played this a
Okay.
lot.
Any other questions, Sean?
Nope.
I'm sorry, crashed. Sorry. I work with Crash, so I call him by first name. I apologize.
So do you party up with Leah? Like I always wondered about this. Are you partying
Oh
up
yeah,
with people?
you know what? I should have told you that. That's how he's strong enough to get to heaven. He actually kills Leah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So, yeah.
That day.
And as you're going through, when you're almost to Diablo, you actually fight an aspect of Leah. She like tries to make you feel bad that you didn't protect her, and then the same thing happens with Tyrael. They're just aspects of Diablo because he's the Lord of Terror, right? So he's trying to scare you into not
I
getting
thought
to
this
him.
was like an aspect of Leah, meaning like a part of her soul.
No. I'm
Itself.
sorry.
She's like,
Yeah,
how
no.
dare you not fight the literal devil for me, the person you kind of just met?
Yeah. So sorry. Anyway, I should have. I forgot about that completely.
So like,
My bad.
Feel
My bad.
bad.
Good question. Well done, Crashed.
He snipped it out.
I got a gold star. I'm gonna write it on the paper right now.
He snipped it out.
Okay, so we good? Crashed.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay. So Reaper of Souls. Now, this again was great. I really think Diablo did wonders with these last two games. Not that the first four weren't great, but these were just really, really good. So, Malthael is the Archangel of Wisdom. I'm sorry I'm boring you, Shiny Shoes.
No, no.
He's like,
He's like,
this was the worst idea ever.
He got to the part where he's like, oh, I know this one. I don't have to pay attention.
No,
All of a sudden you just hear,
Man, my webcam is really far away.
okay, so Malthael, Archwizard of Wisdom. I'm sorry, not Archwizard, Archangel of Wisdom. Jesus, talk eventually.
Archwizard of Wisdom.
Archwizard of Wizardry. So anyway, he's not really the angel of death as I have in the notes. You'll understand why I kind of say that. So after Diablo's taken care of, Tyrael is charged with taking the Black Soul Stone deep within the depths of the labyrinth below Tristram. As he's about to put it where it needs to be, Malthael shows up, kills everybody except for one other of the people that are with him, and you get to see some cool cinematics where he's like drawing the life out of Tyrael's face into his like faceless cowl. Like the cinematics are great. Okay. Anyway, Tyrael uses his sword because it's still an angelic sword. It stops him from being killed. But Malthael takes the Black Soul Stone. So because Malthael feels that he needs to find, because of what Diablo did to heaven, to the high heavens, he wants to rid the world, all worlds of demons completely. But because humans and Nephilims were part human or part angel, part demon, that includes humans as well. So he goes to, I have this in my notes. The name of the city. I have it somewhere in here, my notes. Because I can't remember the name of the notes. Okay, anyway, it's in here somewhere. No, Pandemonium is later. Anyway, so he summons these death maidens to kill off humans. He'll suck their life force and make himself stronger, but you perverted. You're so perverted. Get your mind out of the gutter! Anyway, so they're killing all these humans because they're demons, and he just wants to get rid of them all. So anyway, that's the way he's going to end the eternal conflict, is to destroy all demons. So you stop the maidens, and then you head to. So a piece of the Black Soul Stone falls off. Tyrael uses it to find Adria, who is trying to again bring Diablo back because he's in the Soul Stone. So she's trying to find Malthael to find the Soul Stone to release Diablo again. So there's this piece of Black Soul Stone comes out. They use it to find Adria. You go to Adria, and you end up fighting her. You find out that the Black Soul Stone and Malthael are in Pandemonium. in the fortress that we talked about earlier. So, you have to. It's kind of cool the way that you have to get there. You have to show the ancients that you're worthy. You can't fight. You can't fight Malthael because he's part death now, and you're in a different. You would all of your stuff would just kind of go through him when you tried to fight him because he's not human. Right. So you have to prove to the ancients that you're worthy in Pandemonium. They kind of touch you and turn you kind of death. Not death. You're not dead, but you're able to fight Malthael because you've done this. So you go and fight Malthael.
Now you're ready.
Yeah, so you it's cool. You get on this battering ram, and you have to like fight these demons as this ram is like ramming into this huge fortress door to try to let you in. Anyway, you end up fighting your way to Mouth. You get him to, is it half health or 3/4 health, whatever, or health, and then he takes his weapons and cuts the soul stone open and takes all the power into himself. He's super powerful at that point. You fight him. Obviously, you win. Otherwise, that wouldn't be the game. Well, this obviously they've shattered the soul stone now, so now and you've killed Malthael, so there's nothing all of the lords of hell from being released again. So I think it gives preface to Diablo 4. I can go into more detail about Diablo 4 after we get through the rest of this. If you want, you can cut it short there. I'm super excited about Diablo. Like I'm like a kid in a candy shop.
No, dude, I understand that. Diablo 4 looks great. I'm excited when they showed the trailer for it and everything. I was like, ooh, let's go.
Yeah. So great things that happened in Reaper of Souls seasons. So this is kind of what's kept Diablo 3 going for so long is seasons. It's every couple months they revamp gear. They don't really change what gear does. They did this time, but we're on season 19, so it took 19 seasons for them to, they've changed a little bit here and there, but they completely added new gear this season for Crusaders and monks. Anyway, seasons are great. Every 2 months, it starts all over. You lose all your paragons. You make a seasoned character. You go through and you get to 70 and you go through Nephilim rifts, which are just rifts full of hordes of demons, and you get gear and these greater rift keys. You go into greater rifts, which are the same thing except for they're a little bit tougher. You fight like a big boss at the end of those, a big demon. You get better gear. You climb leaderboards on the greater rifts. That's the only reason I bring that up. They changed gear attributes every season, which basically makes well, not really attribute. Anyway, they buff and nerf things every season so that it's not the same game. It is, but it's not. Certain classes are now in the meta. So yeah, for pushing greater rifts, four you can get up to 4 people in a group. 4-man leaderboards are usually pretty insane. Usually have a Z monk and some sort of support whirlwind barb that pulls minion, and then you just have like a massive AOE champion and then a rift guardian killer as your last guy. Anyway, bounties came out, so you can get cool crafting mats that allow you to do a variety of different things inside of Kenai's cube, which is what Sultan Kuel used because he was an alchemist. Kadala, you'll learn who Kadala is. She's this wizard that I'd call her what I have in the notes there, except she doesn't ever give you what you want, so she's not really technically that. You just gamble off these blood shards you get and never get what you actually want from her, and she laughs at you because you suck at life.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Why not?
The Necromancer is brought back in Reaper of Souls, which is cool. For like 18 seasons, they were, well, not 18 seasons because I don't know how many seasons, but DLC came out with Necromancer, and since they've been released, they've just been really OP. But they nerfed them into oblivion for season 19, so that was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of Diablo 3. Again, we just kind of quickly went through everything. I'm sure I'm missing a lot. I'm sure I probably gave a little bit of misinformation. If I do, I apologize. Just let me know I'm an idiot, and I will fix it. And
I think
you heard it here. This is everything you need to know before you play Diablo 4.
Yeah.
Everything.
So Diablo 4, super excited. It's
Yeah.
the rise of Lilith. So apparently she's going to come back from the void again. But so I was telling Crashed about this, and this is the only thing I'm going to say about it because this is kind of new. Rothma is this. He's like he and his brother kind of created I almost said necrophilia, necromancers. Two totally different things there.
About to invent a whole new kind.
You know,
of disease.
necromancers are really just medics. They're just a little too late.
Yeah.
So
True.
They're just
so
really determined. They're like, I already got my medical license. Might as well do something.
so anyway, there was a lot of speculation from the. I know you watched the thing from BlizzCon, but there's actually a video on YouTube now that's been released by Blizzard that it's like a 9-minute video on Diablo 4. It's like just like a cinematic for it. It's really great. There's a dude in a white face who is there with Lilith as she is released. A lot of people thought that was Rothma, but a lot of people did not because he's like completely neutral, right? He's like, he has no. He doesn't want good or evil to win. He wants it just to be balanced and neutral. So there's a guy who took this open video from what Blizzard gives out to the media and went through frame by frame and found in two places that in the reflection of one of the eyes it says Rothma's reflection. So either Blizzard wanted this to be Rothma or they messed up and changed it to a different person because why would you have a neutral person bringing out Lilith? Or it indicates that the world is so messed up in Diablo 4 that the only way to bring balance is to bring the daughter of hatred onto Sanctuary. So, I'm so excited.
I can't wait. It's gonna be a great game. I mean, it's good and like just the series. So when my first foray into games like that really started I had it for PlayStation 1, but I didn't get into games like that till PlayStation 2 with like the Champions of Norath and the Baldur's Gate games came out.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of got me into that whole dungeon crawler, looter type thing. Those games are gone now, but maybe Baldur's Gate 4 will come back out. We don't know. Or Baldur's Gate, the new one, will come out and kind of fix that. But I remember getting Diablo 3 and just playing it like on Xbox with friends and stuff like that. It was great. Just a fun time. So.
Yeah, my brother and I played it when it first released, and we went to bed at like rank 36 or something like that after the first night. Woke up early, logged in to play. My brother's account was hacked, and he never played it again.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So that when I told my brother what this podcast was going to be on, he goes, I'm not going to listen to that, right? I was like, I
know. Yikes, poor guy.
Well, yeah, it is what it is. So
anyway,
questions, please.
I'm pretty good.
You're good, Crashed. If you don't have any questions, it's fine. It makes me feel like I did my job.
I don't even know what I don't know.
I really feel like I just blabbed on for like half an hour, so I apologize if I missed some things or.
I was just wondering, like, I love like every other game, or like for the couple of the expansions, it's just like, oh, the angels are about to kill all the demons, and then they're like, wait, why didn't you just do that in the first place?
Well, it's an eternal conflict,
yeah,
and the fortress of Pandemonium has constantly shifted between being occupied by demons or angels. Like they're constantly winning both ways.
It's a metaphor.
According to the lore, one of the archangels of fate, because for whatever reason, fate is a tenant, whatever. Anyway, she has this scroll that is the fate of everything, including the eternal war. According to lore, spoiler alert, hell wins. However, that's why she wants to keep humans alive, because anything that pertains to the humans or anything that humans affect are not written in the scroll. So that's why she wants to preserve humanity. That's why she voted against killing all of humanity, because they could alter that, right? They could alter
secret weapon
fate. Yeah.
So, do you have anything else, Crash?
No.
So
I'm sorry. I tried so hard to like try to explain this and not confuse people who have never played, and to try to get them enthusiastic about it, because in all reality, man, the lore that I keep going back into, you can get into if you want to, but just the lore of the games themselves, it's so well done. Blizzard, whether or not they screwed up WoW after Lich King or not, Blizzard has always done well with Diablo, like always. So
they keep that up in Diablo 4. So
yeah, I agree.
So if you guys have questions at home or anything, go ahead and send them to us. You can find us on YouTube, Twitch, the podcast sites. We're on Spotify, Podbean. If you have questions, go ahead and send them through. This has been Nerdlore, signing out.